Hello. So, as you can see from the first slide, I wrote this book. It's called I Don't Want to Die, a new look at suicide assessment, intervention, and prevention. And as you can see from the flyer on the first slide, the book is available through Amazon, Barnes& and Noble, bookshop.org, and actually through any number of other online bookstores. There's a lot of information in this book about suicide, suicide assessment, intervention, and prevention. Um, in a previous video, I talked about one of the key components that I subscribe to in terms of suicide prevention, that being the fact that suicidal feelings are temporary and how to approach that. Today, I want to talk about the next component and the second reason I discovered why suicide prevention works when it does. Now, keep in mind, suicide prevention doesn't work all the time. Um, if it did, no one would ever go through with committing suicide. That's just not the case. Anyway, the second component, and this is an important one in terms of how to intervene, is the fact that anyone who's feeling suicidal is also feeling ambivalent about their suicide and their suicidal ideation. And that ambivalence is basically the feelings of wanting to die and wanting to live, both going on at the same time. This is important for me in terms of how I intervene. Um, I assume, first of all, that those feelings are there in most every single case. I know it's been there in every case that I've ever encountered. And there's evidence over and over again of the presence of ambivalence, even in cases where people have made some pretty serious suicide attempts. Um, there are a number of cases, I think 22 was the last number I heard, of people who have jumped off the Golden Gate Bridge as their suicide attempt and have survived. There's one case in particular that I know of that I read about, and it was a gentleman who jumped off the bridge and survived. He was taken to the hospital, to the emergency room, and the article that I read has to do with the conversation that he had with I don't know if it was a psychologist or whoever it was that was interviewing him. And the person asked him how he felt about this experience and how he felt about what had happened and what he had done. And the man's response was very simple. He basically said, right after I jumped, as I was falling, before I passed out, which is something that most people will do, he said, before I passed out, I was thinking to myself, boy, this is really a stupid thing to do. That's the ambivalence at work. That's the feeling of, I want to die, but I want to live, both going on at the same time. That's the reason why people will take an overdose of pills and then call the local crisis line or a suicide prevention line. That's why someone will cut their wrists and make very shallow cuts, what we call hesitation marks, basically. And those cuts are the result of the person thinking to themselves, I want to do this, but at the same time, I really don't. So, this is important for me when I intervene with someone because I will talk to them about their suicidal ideation and what brought them to the point of feeling suicidal. But I will also say to them, tell me about the part of you that wants to live, because I know it's there. Now, wording it that way is very important. I won't say to someone, for example, tell me about the part of you that doesn't want to die. I will very specifically say, tell me about the part of you that wants to live. When I do that, and this has happened many times, the person will look at me and you could just see their face and their expression and their whole body just change. And it's like, yep, there's that part. There is that part of me that wants to live. I just don't know how to do it. I just don't know how to get past my suicidal feelings to the point where I feel like I actually do want to go on living. And that's the part where we begin to talk about, well, what's that about? What's going on that might make you want to feel like, you know, Suicide is not the answer for you. And let's look at that together. Let's work on what some of the issues are that brought you to this point. Let's look at what some of the issues are that might be helpful to you, that might be able to help you get to the point where maybe you're not feeling as suicidal as you have been, or maybe not at all. That would be the greatest outcome we could hope for, but that obviously doesn't help in every single case. But it's a starting point. So that's just one of the other strategies that I use, and one of the other ways I approach this issue in terms of dealing with someone who's experiencing suicidal ideation. So I hope you find this helpful. I hope you take a look at my book, and thank you.